Mr. Wesley, it really breaks my heart, and it just absolutely pains me to say that another fall poker classic is in the books. Another winning bet by yours truly, Mr. Wesley Cannon. We pick 4 to 5 people, actually 3 to 5 people, I should say, each
Mhm.
year for the fall poker classic predictions. We place a little small wager on it, and I think I'm 0-3 so far. Is that right?
You are 0-3. This year was the first time I didn't pick the outright winner, but luckily it's just a final table bet, so still counts. And actually,
This year.
so f yeah, so for those who don't know, I got 3rd place in the
Congrats.
tournament,
Congrats on that, brother. For 64K?
64K.
That's sick.
Thank you. And, what's interesting is if it had been just a bet not including ourselves, it would have actually been a really bad beat because Ian, one of my picks, went out in 10th. Like, he was actually well above average chips, and he just got, like, sucked out on the final table bubble and lost to the one player who covered him at his table.
Mm.
So that actually would have been a pretty bad beat, and it just would have been a wash. Um,
But
but luckily, we included ourselves this year,
this is the
and
first year we've included ourselves, right? Or maybe second.
yeah.
I don't know. But so yeah, none of my picks made the final table. None of your picks made the final table, but we included ourselves this year and you made the final table, which wins you the bet, sir.
It does, it does. You had a couple get close. I think Leo got 15th or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
Maybe it
shout out to
wasn't,
Leo.
but it was
Yeah.
around there.
Yeah, he was close. He made a deep run. Shout out to Leo Pinamonti. I probably slaughtered that name, but um yeah, I imagine like winning 64K and then another, 150 $200 dinner on top of that.
Oh, it's just that it's so sweet. It's so sweet.
The good part is you're actually buying the dinner because I got a little swap out of
We got a
you.
little swap, yeah, whatever. But I'm gonna pay you separately so that it doesn't feel like that come dinner time.
That's good. That's good. I want to mention too, even on air on the podcast, like I have jobs, many jobs, besides poker. I do real estate. I work for Medtronic, and I have other gigs. You do this specifically as a living, as a professional poker player, and I'm just hyped for you to see that you rely on your bills getting paid by poker, and you've been doing great online, but live has been a little, just a little
It's been a
bad.
while,
Yeah,
yeah.
since you've smacked a score, and um, this is one that kind of just lifts you up a little bit, you know what I mean? A lot of
It
it
does,
actually. It
yeah.
kinda just I'm sure it's invigorating, I'm just glad to see you hit that score and get back in that, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, me too. I mean, there's a bit of, I guess, relief that comes with it. Just sort of an exhale of like, "Ah, that feels good."
Yeah,
And,
for sure,
it's
man.
not even when it's not like when I get home, 'cause what happens is, like, you get to that, it gets to, like, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3 people left, and each time someone busts, you look over and it's like, "Oh, I'm guaranteed 26, 35, 47,000, then 64,000." And it's like, that's it's just great to feel that and be like, "Oh, like, even if I bust, I'm making, like,
That is a great feeling,
maybe
and
someone's annual salary
yeah,
here."
no doubt, and I will say that over the past 5, maybe 6 or more years, I stopped looking at the payouts at that point. I know what first is, but when I
Yeah.
get to that point, I hate telling myself, "Okay, I'm guaranteed this much," and I'm afraid that I'm gonna become complacent with that amount and start not trying as hard. Whether that's true or not, I'm unsure, but do you understand what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
I absolutely do. For me, I think it's a little different. I think for me, it's fine to look at the payouts there. For me, what it is I don't wanna start looking at those payouts or even looking at the pay jumps when we're at, like, 20, 30, 40 left because
Yeah.
as we'll talk about, maybe this episode, maybe another, I think there is some sort of mental thing to paying too much attention to stuff like that.
In the past, I'm definitely guilty of, um spending that money before I've earned it. You know what I mean? It just that's
Sure.
I'm just trying to word it in a specific way, but yeah, like imagining like what I'm going to
Counting
do. Yeah,
your chickens before they hatched
there
or
you go.
something, yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, exactly. So, and I think there's no positive outcome from that, but there can be negative outcomes because it's just going to take up. There's a few reasons I think that. Number one, it's just taking up energy and brain power that could be used towards playing a better game. but secondly, when you don't get that result, it's just gonna hurt that much more.
Mhm.
You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
that's a very good point. That's a
So,
very good point.
I
And
think, it's hard not to, right? I mean, you're so close and you start, like you said, counting your chickens before they hatch, but,
mhm.
yeah, shout out to you on making that deep run, 3rd out of 700 and something.
I think, yeah, 718, I think it was.
And on top of that, we haven't even mentioned this wait, did you cash it last year?
I got like 33rd last year.
33rd.
I made a pretty solid
So
run.
in 3 years, you've got a 2nd, a 33rd, and a 3rd.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna toot my own horn a little bit here.
I'll say nothing new. Come on.
The Canterbury hosts 3, like, series per year, and each one has a main event. So over the last 3 years, there's been 9 main events. They used to have them all at 1100. Now it's 2 800s, and then the fall one's 1100. But anyways, so I did the math on this because I'm like, I've apart from like 1 or 2 results, I've had just a ton of my best results ever at these tournaments. And so over those last 9 main events over the last 3 years, I've paid a total of 18,200 in buy-ins,
Okay.
and
Let me
I have
guess. Let me guess. Hold on. Let me guess the number. I know,
yeah.
this is without last longers, right? Are we including last longers?
We're not including those, but I've also had, like, 9K worth of last longer money.
So without last longer, I'm gonna say $165,420
I've cashed for a
and
total of
69 cents.
bingo. No, so I've cashed for over $210,000 in those events.
What
I have
I can't even cash a tournament at Canterbury.
it's insane.
That's awesome. That's super cool. Matt Salzberg, he was a writer for the show Weeds, but he's also a poker player, and he came up with the term geographical run good. He's
Yeah.
he's convinced that that you just run good in specific geographical locations, and I mean, I agree with that. I seem to run good I mean, this makes no logical sense, but I seem to run good in like specific places and terrible in others. And Canterbury is one of them. As we've spoke on this podcast before, like that didn't change this fall poker classic for me by any means. I didn't fire away. I've played only 2 events, but yeah, you've cashed like the last 3 years every event, and I've cashed maybe one. I did final table one, but to add on to that, we have a running aces tournament this weekend, and
Yeah.
that's my geographical run good location.
Yeah,
So,
and that's my run back. I bricked 4 bullets last night, like
oh, you put 4 into there? You stud.
yeah, it is a 360, so I'm maybe a little bit more liberal with it, but
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you juicing that prize pool. I will make sure to, spend that money well when as I said, don't count my chickens before they hatch. Here I go. But
yeah. Yeah, no, it is insane, like, at running aces, I'm definitely down money overall. I've
yeah,
had 1 decent 7th place, and the MSPTs there, I've had a couple min cashes, a couple times I've bricked 3 to 5 bullets, and then yeah, Canterbury, it's like not only those mains, that doesn't even include like a 3rd place in a 400 mystery bounty, a bunch of tournaments where I've made final 2 tables, like 3rd place in a cheap and deep. I Yeah, Canterbury tournaments have been insane for me the last few years.
again, for those who are not from the state or of the Midwest in general, Canterbury and Running Aces are our 2 local card rooms on the south side and north side of Minneapolis. Both great rooms, both
Mhm.
completely different feels. Um,
Yeah.
I seem to run better at Running Aces. Wes seems to run better at Canterbury. So
Yeah, absolutely.
it's so strange, but I mean, today's episode, I'm really looking forward to this idea. So we're gonna detail your run and then go over a bunch of concepts that allowed you to get to where you were. And the title of this episode is going to be something along the lines of why you're not running deep in tournaments, and we're gonna kind of land on some key points that will kind of showcase places where you could have easily been out if you weren't. if you weren't in the right mindset or just studied as much as you are. And I think this will help people figure out where they need to improve in their game to make deep runs like you did this weekend.
Mhm.
And it's more than just making big folds. So we'll get into some other topics as well. I know you have a laundry list over there. So um, do you just want to kind of start from the beginning of the tournament, talk about how the first day went?
Yeah, yeah, let's do that. And some of the things we get into are not going to be specifically about my run, but yeah, I think in general people want to know like why they're not making these deep runs. And to be fair, it's not like anyone should be making them at a high percentage clip. So,
I want to go off well, not go off the track, but I want to just kind of start off by saying I think number one is change your mindset. Like stop thinking I don't make deep runs. I'm unluckier than others, and just
mhm,
start channeling that good energy. Start saying, like I can do this. I belong in these deep runs, and then allow your actions to follow those beliefs.
yep. Yeah. And you know what? Should we kind of start on the mental?
Yeah.
I know we were going to start on the at the beginning of the tournament, but
Speaking of mental, I go into Canterbury and I'm like, there's not a chance I'm cashing this turn.
oh man, yeah,
Go
no,
ahead.
I know what you mean.
Go ahead.
Um, okay, so should we start at the beginning of the tournament, or should we start with some of the mental stuff?
Let's start with the mental. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so in terms of tournaments, I think one thing, and we've talked about this in previous episodes, is if you don't make deep runs, you might have a strategy that intentionally or not optimizes for getting a min cash. And
Mhm.
what I mean by this is maybe
You're
you're
too
not
tight.
even, yeah, or maybe you don't even start off too tight. Maybe you are trying to get chips early on. But let's say, so a lot of these tournaments have a 30K starting stack. Let's say you get up to like 180 or 200K.
Yep.
What could happen for some of you is you feel good. You feel like, oh, I got a healthy stack here. I'm
I can
one of the
slide
chip
into
leaders.
the money.
Yeah, like I can relax,
Yeah. Yeah.
I and then so what that manifest says is like you instead of continuing to try and accumulate, you now have this mindset where, oh, it would be such a disaster not to cash.
Mhm.
And so you get protective of your stack, you're folding, you're not bluffing, you find yourself, folding maybe middle pair to one bet, or maybe it's two bets, but you had some equity, whatever it is, like,
So you're making decisions based on not cashing rather than just playing optimal or making the most money.
yeah. And so I think this for those of you who find yourself oftentimes near the bubble with, you know, 15, 10, 8 big blinds, whatever it is. To be clear, this will happen to everybody sometimes, but if this feels like a normal occurrence where you'll get to the money and then you're immediately in shove or fold mode when day 2 comes around. A lot of times this probably comes from a mental place of when you get those chips, you're trying to lock up the cash. And certainly when you're on the stone bubble, there are times when you want to play this way, but my m- my thought is that you're probably playing this way starting, let's say there's 25 players that make the money. Maybe you're starting around the time that there's 40 left.
Yeah.
And
And if you start playing too tight at that point, you're going to honestly start blinding down and lose a lot of opportunity to
Mhm.
punish the bubble, but to make deep runs as well.
Yeah, basically putting yourself in a spot where unless you get aces versus kings against someone, you're never going to actually have a big stack going into day 2.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's turn this into a conversation. So obviously that's one way of thinking it is you're getting too tight at too early approaching the bubble. What about the players who, you start with 30K, we run it up to 180, 200K on day 1, and then we just start opening too much or we're getting too loose. We start opening, these suited gapped connectors in earlier position, and we just have enough chips to withstand these hits that we can take. Um, do we is that incorrect in your mind as well? And how do we find a balance between those 2 play styles to actually, perform the best we can?
Yep. I would say, yeah, that's definitely a leak too. I think some people will build up a big stack and feel like they can do anything. I think if there's one in especially in live tournaments, I would imagine this one works a little bit better if you know how to continue applying the aggression. But yeah, in general, like the flip side of that, you're right, is you might be someone that when they get a bunch of chips, just essentially goes on winner's tilt and sort of punts it off a lot.
Mhm, mhm.
And yeah, that can be equally as damaging where maybe you're not putting your or you're not making your strategy based around trying to be the most chip EV, plus chip EV. You're just trying to gamble to get a huge stack, and those are 2 very different things.
So, to kinda clarify a good middle point, it might be something along the lines of, don't tighten up too much, don't be too aggressive, but just continue to play your best game with a solid theoretical foundation, like opening, limiting our opens in early position to hands that we can get coolered with frequently. You know, we might be able to open up a little bit wider in late position with a bigger stack, obviously, but essentially just being more balanced and not just opening just because we have a big stack, but playing a strong range and sticking to that instead of just getting all Daniel Negreanu loosey goosey.
Yeah. Yeah, no, totally. And I think the from the standpoint of the mental stuff, I think another way to put this is maybe you ride the emotional wave of the tournament too much. Maybe if you double up, you get the warm fuzzies and you're like you feel awesome, and then maybe you lose a big one and you're just like so pissed and honestly, I know I've been there and I'm sure you have and I'm sure we all have we know what that feels like, right?
For sure,
So
absolutely.
it's not like anyone can be a complete robot despite what some of you might think about
And
me.
and let's clarify. Let's clarify. You're gonna no matter what, you're gonna run into instances. What if even if you're playing perfect, not too loose, not too aggressive, well balanced, you're still gonna just bust sometimes. It's just good. That's just the way the
Yes,
game works. So
of course.
don't just recognize after the fact of was I playing too aggressive? Was I playing too tight? Or was I playing great? And then you have to be really honest with yourself if you want to improve.
Mhm.
I like it.
Yeah. There's some other, mental stuff we might get into, but I'm gonna just start kind of where I was the first thing on my list here. And so reasons why you don't make many deep runs. I think number 1 is you don't know the basics. Like, I think there's a decent amount of people out there who play a reasonable amount and kind of consider themselves pretty good poker players. And, that certainly could be true in the case when they play with their friends in a home game, they probably crush them,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
But I think, yeah, knowing the basics, there's so much more to it than you might think. And I certainly don't mean knowing what like a solver output's going to be or knowing every spot, but I would say like general um, pre-flop ranges, knowing a good 3-bet size, understanding pot odds, using at least reasonable bet size, using a bet size that has like a good intention behind it,
Yep.
you know,
hmm
stuff like that.
I think a
And
good way to do that is to, listen to our podcasts, surround
mhm,
yourself with people who are better than you, that you look up to and ask them a lot of questions. You're not going to get there without making mistakes. Just first and foremost, clearly, you gotta make mistakes, question them, and get better from there. And that's how you will get to that point.
totally. And I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but I think if there's one piece of info that I would recommend actually looking at the tools for pre-flop ranges, like you can get at least a decent amount of it for free. And you don't need to memorize it. I don't think anyone's gonna perfectly memorize it. It just, like, give yourself a reference point, so when you think back on a hand and you're like, "Oh, I opened 9-6 suited from the hijack," like, is that good or bad? Or
On 18 bigs, yeah, and you're like,
right, so
yeah,
18 bigs, it would be like, "That's probably really bad," and
yeah,
then
yeah,
off of 80 bigs, it's probably like, "Yeah, that's good."
exactly. Yeah, and so do
And
you have any good recommendations for pre-flop tools that our listeners can check out?
oh, I mean, there's GTO Wizard, there's Floptimal, as I think Jeff Sprinks Jeff Hoop,
Yeah,
AKA Sprinks,
Sprinks.
mentioned. There's it used to be Preflop Acad I think it's just called Poker Academy, but there's also, like and I think some of these, you can get a decent amount of it for free, but even if you're a subscriber to I know back in the day, I did Upswing Poker, and they had a bunch of charts, some of which were either free or quite cheap.
By the way, let me just pause our this for a second. Have you used any of the coaching tools on Club WPT after they acquired Upswing Poker?
I've clicked on it like once or twice, but
I'm
no, not
curious
really.
what those tools are and if they're helpful or not. I've not
Yeah.
indulged yet, so I'm curious. Like it could be cool. You could might be able to find some cool pre-flop stuff, post-flop stuff on there. I
You
think
actually could.
yeah, I mean you play a hand and I think you pay a small amount and it will, give you theory on how it was played, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean that's
I
cool.
think
And
that's
that's specific to the hand you've played. So maybe a good tool if you are playing on Club WPT Gold to check out. I know they recently switched from sweeps coins to a just a chips format. I think it's the same thing, but
yeah.
it turns
They're
out
getting around the
yeah.
they're finding the loopholes in the law.
I mean, they just spent probably millions and millions of dollars getting their site run, and they probably don't want it to burn down immediately. So
Yeah.
okay, all right. So yeah, we landed on, learning pre-flop ranges is a great place to start, and obviously it makes sense because pre-flop is the situations you're going to be in the most. You're going to
Mhm.
see way more pre-flop stuff than you are flops, turns, and rivers. So
Yeah, and, this reminds me of a spot where actually I would've won a nice big pot in the tournament, but I actually made what was a correct fold. There was a middle position open and a button 3 bet off of, like, 30 something big blinds, and
were you
I had
almost being
pocket
results oriented there?
almost, right? I folded pocket nines from the small blind, where in a spot where I was considering, like, 4 betting to commit against the button, and then, the early position player had a lot more chips, so could fold if they 5 bet, but yeah, I actually would have ended up winning nines versus the flop was 9-3 deuce rainbow, and I was just like, that
Dude,
sucks."
it's so I try like just don't look at the flop.
Yeah. Yeah,
uh,
whenever you have to fold a pocket pair in a spot where it's close, you just
yeah,
don't.
and then you flop a set in what would have
Oh.
been a massive pot. It's just like, oh, but you
Yeah.
gotta like you literally the only thought you should have in that point is I made the correct decision in the moment.
Yep.
Hindsight's always 2020. So it's very unlikely you're gonna flop a set. What is it? 1 in 8, 1 in 9, something like that.
1 in 8,
1 in 8,
roughly.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, anyways, yeah, continue, please.
Well, I think that's another great segue here. Another reason you might not make deep runs is you're too results oriented.
Mm.
And this can actually work sort of both ways because sometimes I think players, you hear this all the time from people who I think are actually trying to be accountable and think about the hand logically, where let's say they raise, they bet flop, they check turn, and then they face a river bet and they're like, ah, I misplayed this hand so bad. And basically they're saying, like, oh, I had a good hand, but I let you get there.
Okay.
And I think a lot of times people, even as they're trying to be accountable with themselves, they're just thinking about it the wrong way, you know? Or you'll hear someone who has an overpair that loses to a straight, someone turned a straight on them. They're like,
I should have
"I
bet bigger.
yeah, I should have just gone all in on flop." And
Yeah.
it's like, "Okay, but you know that you would not you know that that's not good, right?"
And because in the long run, you would not be making as much money just because I
Yeah.
got lucky in that instance. Again, I think this is a great time to clarify our things you've mentioned in the past. It's like play for the long. I mean, not in every instance, but play for the long game. Is this going to make me money in the long run?
Yep. Yeah, totally. And yes, I think that from a mental standpoint, it's like, well, not even a mental standpoint. It's just the more you practice, the more you think about poker and the more you play, the more comfortable you will be with the idea that you can play a hand correctly in the long run in a way that is actually worse in the short run. Now, obviously, you're never doing that on purpose, but yeah, it's like, let's say you had queens and the flop was, you know, ace 8 5.
Oh, I should have went 2.8x pre instead of 2.2, and they would have folded their ace ray.
Yeah, or actually here actually even better example, let's say we have ace queen here. So it's like a clear flop bet,
Yep.
ace 8 5, we bet, get called. Let's say the turn is a 10 and it brings in a flush.
Okay.
So it goes and we decide to check. Maybe we could bet, but we
Yeah.
decide to check. River is an offsuit 9 and our opponent bets and we call and we get shown a straight. It's like, "Oh, if we bet the turn, they just fold."
Right.
And that's not how you wanna think about it because like,
Yeah. I mean,
you're
right.
looking at the whole range of
That's
hands they could
I really
have.
like how you said that too. Yeah, and that spot we were supposed to check because we're pot controlling. We're oftentimes we're only going to get called by hands that beat us, etc. So, um, you're just looking at the river as um, I should have like I said, hindsight's 2020.
Right. I think what's important for people to get is they're when they feel that way, they're sort of giving themselves they're putting too much on themselves where it's like, "Oh, I should have put him on a straight draw and got him off that." It's like, you and me and other, for-profit players, we're not when someone just check calls flop, we don't know exactly what they have. On that, what was it? Ace 8 5 with a flush draw. They could have a flush draw, they could have an ace, they could have a straight draw, they could have an 8, a 5, they could be trapping with a set or two pair.
Yep.
There's so much they could have, and when the turn comes, we're trying to figure out what play makes the most sense against the whole range of hands they could have,
Yeah.
rather than deciding which one to put them on.
And
Because
so
yeah,
let me explain. So like if they did have a flush here instead of river in a straight, but they turned a flush, you'd feel like a genius because now you didn't lose as much. So and that's all part of the same range that they could be calling the flop with. So you just have to realize that that's just because you lost that way doesn't mean you played it bad. I agree.
exactly. And then on the flip side, like, sometimes people will do the opposite where they make kind of an insane play that just ends up working out. Like maybe maybe someone just like, we'll go with yeah, like I don't have a specific example. These might be tougher to come up with, but like let's say you just go all in for 40 big blinds pre-flop with pocket aces and someone has kings and they call you and you knock them out. You double up for 40 bigs and you're like, hell yeah. It's like, okay, but you were gonna get it all from pocket kings anyways.
Yeah. And now you're
Whereas
losing all your other customers.
yes, exactly. And you're sort of projecting your hand strength. So okay, so here's a good example from last night. I defended queen three suited versus the button. The flop was 8 5 3. So I had bottom pair, but I had no backdoor flush draw.
Okay.
I checked and he bet like 1.5x pot.
Oh, what the hell?
And I just folded and he showed kings and he might feel like, yeah, and he even said, like, yeah, I didn't want you drawing any two pair nonsense. And
Now he
I'm like,
loses
That's
value.
cool
That's
with me.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's great for you and it's bad for him because like you can't be afraid of the monsters under the bed. You need to get value for your hands and sometimes they will suck out on you, but if you continue to do that, you're not going to be the guy who has a pile of chips near the bubble. You're not
Yeah.
going to be the guy who has a pile of chips at the end of the tournament. You need one of the most difficult skill sets as a professional poker player or just as a poker player in general is being able to extract value as much as possible. And that's a spot
Exactly.
and that's a spot where he extracted no value. I mean, if he bets 1.5 bigs instead of 1.5 times the pot, you might check raise your hand, and all of a sudden he's just getting a lot more. You know what I mean?
Yeah, if he bets like 2/3, I'm gonna call one street.
Yeah.
Also, now he opens himself up to where if he bets smaller in other spots, I'm gonna feel like I can just bluff him.
Yeah, he's not balanced there as well. And on top of all of this, when he does bet 1.5 times with kings, you're only going to be calling with hands that beat him, 2 pairs and sets and stuff like that. So now he's just owning himself.
Yeah, and to be clear, if you think someone's gonna call you with one pair for that size, by all means, but his
Yeah.
intention was definitely like,
I don't
"I
wanna get
wanna
sucked up
knock
by this.
off all the
Yeah.
knock all these hands out of here." Like,
He's
the
reducing his
avoiding
variance, but he's killing his
his
value.
EV. Yep,
Yeah.
yeah. No, yeah, that's totally right. Um,
I think I can't think of an exact example off the top of my head. I do think that as long as it's not something you do regularly, there can be times, maybe in ICM situations, or I don't know exactly when, but I've definitely found times where I feel like I will go against the grain and maybe do something. I mean, maybe not that egregious, but I will, bet larger in a spot where I might be missing value to reduce the variance because of maybe ICM or something like that, something along the lines of that,
yeah,
but
I
I
would
don't
I would guess it's much less like, you're
it's
moving
not
the
often at
needle a
all.
lot
Yeah,
less than
yeah.
this one.
It's one of those kind of, when I say I get those, how did I word that in the past? But like those intuitive feelings, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
That's only when I do it, so and it's not
yeah.
regularly.
Alright, so we have some more examples. This one I am going to take an example hand that I played from my run this last weekend. So this was pretty early, or it was at least it was middle of day 1, I guess later part of day 1, but the blinds were 1,500, 2,500, 2,500, and we
You're what? You're a few couple hours from the end of day 1, it sounds like.
yeah. And so I actually so I had literally just lost a pot, but I was still a little over 100K, like, I was in fine shape. So I had king, queen of hearts in, I think, low jack.
Love that
I
hand.
yeah,
Got me excited, let's
beautiful.
go.
Opened to 5,500.
'Kay.
Player to our left here, he's actually a very strong online player. He doesn't play a ton live that I know of.
So he's got
He
wider 3 bet ranges is what you're telling me.
he does, and so he 3 bets to 12.5K, so 5 big blinds, and he
Okay.
has 20 bigs he has about 50K to start the hand, so 20 bigs. The button actually cold calls,
Oh.
uh,
See, this is where things get tough.
or sorry, the cutoff cold calls, but
Okay,
oh, maybe it was the button.
weren't you hijack?
I was low jack,
Oh, low
he was
jack,
hijack,
hijack, 3
and it
bets,
was the button. It
and
was
then
the button
button.
that
Okay,
cold called.
gotcha. Button cold calls, okay. How much does
Yeah,
button have?
I think he covers us.
Is he tight? Is he splashy? Is he just kind of like
He's a splashy player.
okay, so that doesn't scare me nearly as
I'm
much.
actually in just from all the hands we talk about in this, from this tournament, I'm not gonna name names when I'm describing the player because they are players that a lot of us it's a lot of Minnesota people, and we have a lot of Minnesota listeners,
Yeah,
and I'm just gonna
that's fair.
maybe they'll figure it out here, but in general, I'm not gonna talk about my reads on specific players as much as I can.
Uh, oh
Um,
god. Oh, so you think I'm splashy? I can just hear it.
no, but we actually did play we were at the same table before. No, oh my god, you did cold call one of my 3 bets, like, right before this.
Oh, it was that table?
No, and this was right after we got moved, but that was one of the last hands at that
I
table.
cold called one of your 3 bets, right?
Yeah.
I wanna say I had pocket tens. Is that what I told you I
I
had?
think you said jacks.
Jacks. Yeah, 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 yeah. It was jacks. Yep.
That makes sense. Anyway, so in this spot, we decide to call with king, queen of hearts. And so
Okay.
the pot's already over 40K.
Can I ask you a question? Do we ever squeeze here with king queen suited, or is that just punting?
I don't think it's terrible I think because I think the button's gonna probably fold.
And so there's an extra whole dead 3 big or 5 big blinds in there because of the button.
Yeah. That might actually be better
I'm
than
curious. I mean,
laying.
that's just my thought. I'm not 100% sure. It does suck because when you get called, you're often dominated,
Mhm.
sometimes flipping, but often dominated.
Yeah, I think that's actually reasonable because the button's almost certainly gonna fold,
Mhm. And just picking
and
up
yet
10
you
bigs or 11, 12 and a half
ele
bigs.
yeah.
Yeah, that would be ideal. But anyways, continue. So you flat, the pot's 50K. Did the button oh yeah, the button already flatted. So there's 3 ways.
Mhm. The flop is king 10, I think 7. It's king 10 lower card with 2 hearts. So we flop top pair with a flush draw.
Jeez. Okay. Well,
And
yeah.
so this feels like kind of an easy hand to
Well,
play, but there's just a
thinking about Vegas and the fucking Mirage.
well,
What I'm
we can
saying
still be
is
behind,
no, I know, but
but
we love this flop.
we love the flop. And it's gonna play in a pretty straightforward way, I think. We check the 3 better bets, I think it was 11K,
Okay,
and the
so 4
button
just over 4
folds.
bigs. So
Yeah,
4 into how many bigs is it? 16 and a half bigs or 17
yeah.
and a half bigs?
He bets like quarter.
And he's only got 14, 12 bigs behind or something?
Around that, yeah.
Okay. Do we I mean, at this point yeah, okay. So I think at this point, just calling makes sense. We're not really afraid of anything. There's not
So that's what I was this is the decision that I actually wanted to talk about because I think there are some factors that could lead you to call because it's like, yeah, we're not afraid of we don't wanna blow them off when we're ahead,
and we
and
just have
we're
a
not
lot of equity a lot of the time. Yeah.
yeah. However, I my thought was this, well, for starters, if we're behind, it's going in on the turn anyways, so we'll just kind of throw that out the window. If we're behind, it's getting in. If we are ahead, how do we get the rest of the money in against his weaker hands? And my thought actually
That's a good
is
question.
we like, let's say he has ace 10 or jack 10 suited or something.
Oh,
With
okay.
all the draws on this flop,
There's too many
plus
spare
just the
cards that
math,
he won't get the you won't get the rest on.
yeah, he'll just call a jam with a 10 or maybe queens or jacks. If he has something like or just like king jack, right? Although
What if
that
he has
probably
just as
gets
ace
him.
queen or ace jack though, and then we're just losing value to those hands?
We may or may not be. I mean, first off, is he gonna jam turn with those? We don't really know, but also, like, with the price here, ace queen or ace jack has an overcard and a gutter, is
Yeah.
actually ahead of my draws,
He's ahead of your
and
oh, he's ahead of your draws. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Not your pair, but your draws. Yeah.
Yeah, and, like, it's sort of
I don't
yeah.
hate either option. The stack. I mean, the stack. The pot is already so big. Oftentimes he's not going to be folding just because of how much he's
Mhm.
already committed to the pot. Um, I, in my opinion, I don't think either seems like a bad play. So,
Yeah. And so I jammed, and he eventually made the call. He had ace jack with the jack
oh,
of hearts.
oh, if he's calling with ace jack, then yeah, it's a slam dunk. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and so that's sort of where I was going, and I was happy with it in real time. And it seems like a straightforward hand, and it kind of is, but I think and I'm labeling this as looking ahead in the hand. Like think ahead to okay, what is my plan against hand like ace jack, ace queen, or queens jacks or a 10. How can I play it to get the money in against those now or to get all the money in against them? And I'm
I
like,
like this. Okay.
I th- yeah, I think the best way, even though it might seem sort of like overkill with my hand, it's like we can just get it in now. When I jam, he's getting a little bit better than 2 to 1. So it's so hard for him to fold anything, especially when I could just have a hand like Jack nine of hearts
Yeah.
potentially or
Yeah.
Queen Jack suited.
S- Okay, so let's summarize this. So essentially, the thought we should be looking for, especially when we have value, like a ton of equity, is like, how do we get the most money from our opponent on this board? Are we going to be calling? Are we going to be raising? Are we going
Yeah,
to be checking? Whatever. Okay.
especially when you're out of position, I
Yeah.
think.
Okay.
It's a lot more important, but
It can be a tough. I mean, you're not always gonna have a clear answer. Like, for example, I thought he might have folded the ace jack off, but if I mean, it sounds like he's calling, so clearly our best option here is to jam because we're getting those hands that we dominate to call. I mean, he
mhm.
has what? I mean, what between 20 and 30% equity with that hand or something, maybe less.
Yeah, 20, so he had 6 outs, so it's more like 25, but then we take into account even if he hits, I still have a bunch of outs, so it might be more like 20.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. Yeah, and yeah, we want him to put all the chips in with 20% equity.
Yes, we absolutely do.
Okay.
Let's see. There were some I'm trying to think here. There were a decent amount of hands that were somewhat interesting, but like also just played relatively straightforward. There was a
I mean,
there was a hand.
is there, let me pause you. Is there any, I mean, there's got to be value in sometimes just playing ABC. If people, you don't, you
Yeah.
just,
Oh, of course.
yeah,
Yeah.
like just riding the wave.
There was a hand where I played in a way that might seem unconventional. But so day 1A here, 20 players bagged and 23 were remaining at this point. There was a hand at 4K, 8K, and I'd gotten over 200, then I chipped down. I was at 194K here.
And there's
So I
IC on the line.
Yeah, so just over 24 bigs. Under the gun opens to 17K, and I'm under the gun +1 with pocket queens.
Ooh, okay.
What are your thoughts here?
What's his stack size?
He has us covered. He has probably 250, 260.
Okay. He's under the gun. What's the big blind stack like?
Oh, probably a little over 200,
It's
but
unlikely he's trying to attack the big blind here from under the gun, but just a consideration.
yeah, and so under the gun here, I know he's a recreational player who's like well off and you know,
Okay.
but he's
Okay. I'm going to be calling here.
gonna be flatting. Okay, that's interesting because that is what I did.
Okay. Yep. Yeah,
We just flatted
I think
queens.
flatting too. I mean, you're also flatting your aces here, right? So
So technically speaking, I don't think we're supposed to flat anything, but the reason the reason partially that I did is because I'm like, if I three bet and like if I three bet here, am I happy with the range that continues? Am I afraid of letting people in behind me? I don't know. Nah, like
there are
the
things to
best case.
consider. You're going to end
Yeah,
up with more people in the pot on a more frequent basis by flatting, obviously.
yeah,
But you're also not going to bloat the pot against an under the gun range.
yeah. Well, two more players called behind us, so the pot got kind of bloated.
Yeah.
Now,
Well, that's what.
luckily,
Yeah.
the flop was queen 9-8,
Okay. That's a good flop.
and yeah, it's not really worth talking about the strategy here. He bet again. I called. The other players folded. Turn was another 9. He
Oh,
check called.
we're just fist pumping at this point.
Yeah, river was actually a king, and he check called my jam, and he actually had ace queen, so he probably could have gotten away on the river.
Oh yeah. Oh, oh. I mean, that's a
But
cooler flop too. Sheesh.
yeah,
The
oh yeah, it felt like a West flop from back in the day.
what is your thoughts on this hand? Why is this significant? Is it the flatting pre for the reason?
Yeah, the flatting pre, I can kind of go both ways on it. I think three betting in those positions is, I mean, it's very strong, especially in that situation. My thought is like, okay, if someone, it would be nice if someone else squeezes here or jams, and
I
then
mean,
this
that's
guy
another
folds.
thing
Like I'm
too.
under repped in a way. Like I can,
Slightly, yeah. I slightly, yes. I do agree though. It's like, especially if you have squeeze stacks behind you, and they do, and then he folds. Such a slam dunk.
yeah.
What do you do if you three bet and he jams with queens in this spot on the bubble?
We got a call if we're three betting off of 24 bigs with
Oh,
queens.
you had 24 bigs. Okay. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it can't really be just a fold.
yeah. Okay.
Um,
I agree.
which is kind of why, like, I would almost rather only 3-bet aces, kings, and then, like, a couple bluffs once in a while.
All right, all right. So I
So,
like it. We again summarizing, it's just
I don't even know if that's a good hand to talk about, but it was an interesting one,
no,
you
it's
know?
interesting. I think there's something to be said about, flatting queens here though. Into an under the gun open. I mean, what was your specific reason? Like what in the moment, what landed you on that decision?
It felt like if I 3-bet and he jammed, it would really suck. Like, 24 bigs felt like a lot to get in from under the gun and under the gun plus
At that
1.
stage of the tournament for sure.
Yeah, even with queens. And yeah, so it's obviously it's more than set mining. Like if everyone folds and it comes 10-4 deuce, I'm happy with that too.
Mhm.
But
So I
um
want to say this somewhat aligns with our first thing we talked about on, being too tight or too loose as you approach the bubble, right? But what the difference is with your hand is that you did it for a logical reason
yeah, and I think
and not
I
just
just had
because
a
you were
thought.
scared of the money. You're not making the money. You did it because of ranges, because potential squeezes, etc.
Yeah, and one thing too is a reason that I would actually probably fold a hand like pocket eights here is because if someone else squeezes, we kind of just have to fold.
Yeah.
I want to so if I'm going to have a flatting range here, I want to have hands that actually are not they don't have those disadvantages, right?
Okay.
Like someone if someone squeezes, like queens is still good enough.
You just yeah, exactly. But with like pocket eights, you're just burning your money. You just limp
Yeah.
or call folding. So
Yeah. Yeah, and it's queens is not now granted, it went 4 ways to a flop, so that is difficult to play, except we flop top set, so
which
that
made
was
it
just really
amazing.
lucky.
Yeah, and the pot's
Um,
big.
but if it's a heads up pot or even like, let's say the big blind comes along and we're 3 ways, but we're in position, there are still a lot of boards where queens is pretty straightforward, and I don't think even though this player is maybe a bit splashy, I don't think he's the type to run some big bluff on us
Okay.
either.
I just had a thought or a memory of I texted you that night and you're like, I just won a 400K pot at the end of the night. This must have been that pot.
Yes, this was the pot.
All right, that's
Yeah,
awesome.
you're like, Did you bag?" I'm like, "Well, not yet, but we
But
just won a 442K
that was
pot."
that
So,
hand. Okay, yeah, because you
yeah,
hadn't shared that hand actually with me. So that's a that what a being able to get stuff like that right before you beg is awesome. Makes you feel real good.
for sure,
And
for sure.
sometimes just variance, like you just sometimes variance just has to be on your side. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, and it really was this tournament in several spots.
It has to be if you really want to make deep runs.
Yeah. There are a ton more categories we can talk about, and there are some specific hands I played, mostly from day 2 that I wanna get into.
Okay.
Do we want to at this point, do we want to save this for the next episode? I feel like there will be a few episodes on this topic.
Okay.
Um,
I
uh,
like this. I like
yeah.
this. You know,
How we
let's
doing on
we're doing fine on time. We still have, another good half hour so we could go. I want to say, I think we could rename this. I have an idea. We're gonna rename this. Listen to this before your next tournament.
yeah.
Done.
The yeah. No, I mean, honestly, those are the ones people listen to the most.
Yeah,
Like,
they are. We're not, we're off script here, but that's okay.
yeah.
Uh,
No, I mean, we can tell the listeners that it's kind of funny. Our top episode by far is one of the early stage tournament episodes.
all of our
It
early stage tournament episodes perform the best. Anything that
Yeah,
talks about it, I'm just like, you guys not making it to deep stage enough. And this
right,
is
and
what
we
this
joked
episode's
it's
supposed
like,
to help.
because our listeners only make it to early stages, maybe that's why. But really what I think it is, and I've mentioned it to a few people, is like if someone's driving a couple hours to an MSPT or something, they wanna get in the mindset of how are they gonna start off the tournament, right? And so
No,
that's
exactly.
probably why.
That's definitely the
Um,
reason. Yeah.
like that might be where we get our non-regulars to listen is someone's just like, I wanna listen to some early stage tournament stuff, and they look it up on Spotify, and then they find it. So I think,
By far our best performing episodes, though.
yeah, yeah.
It used to be interviews, now it's early stage tournament stuff.
Yeah, and then, granted, a lot of it is WSOP prep stuff too, because that's just when I think the poker world is
They're hungry for
that's
the
the poker
content.
time of year,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And so the best episode overall is the early stage one that was part of our WSOP prep.
Yep, yep.
So,
By the way, if you guys
anyways.
haven't, make sure to, even if it's not WSOP time, make sure to go check out our WSOP prep series. We've done it 2 years in a row now, multiple episodes detailing tournaments from beginning to end. So, from the second you register through bubble play, through final few table play, through final table play, final few table play, I should say, and then through final table, and then to the win, right? So
Mhm.
I love it. Yeah, let's talk about, before we do wrap it up, let's talk about one other thing that we need to do that I think is absolutely crucial that I know you did in this tournament, is making big folds.
Yeah, making big folds. Man. So, yeah, this goes to day 2 mainly, but there's not just 1, but 2 occasions where I opened jacks and then just folded to a single 3 bet.
Two occasions on day one or day two.
Day 2, yeah, and one of them was at the final table where I think it was a little more straightforward,
Okay. Okay.
but there was a time with, I think, 4 tables left where I had about 500K at 20K, so I had, like, 25 bigs. I min raised jacks in middle position or low jack, and the button, who I think he's a decent player, he's kinda snug. He 3 bets to 115K,
You opened to 50
40
or
at
40. Okay.
20K.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Okay.
And I was like, I mean, this is maybe supposed to be a jam, but, like, do I think this guy is 3 betting any of the bluffs? Not really. Do I think he's 3 betting nines? Like, probably not, maybe not. I don't know about tens, and something about the way he did it was just, this felt like strength too, and I'm like, I don't have the right price to set mine, I'm not deep enough. I guess we just fold? And luckily, he actually showed us aces,
Good
which, I mean,
intuition,
that
though.
gave me a ton of confidence too, because it's like, "Oh, not only did I think this through, but I probably just saved my tournament life
I want
here."
to say, like, man, as much as I want you guys to show me your cards, this is why you shouldn't. Um, it's because like you invigorate people with with their good folds. I mean, you can psychologically burn them down too if you show bluffs, etc. So maybe there's a good time to do it. But like in this case, you three bet aces, they fold, you show it. You built yourself a little credit, but what you ultimately did was you juiced up Wes, who just folded jacks, to now he's even more in that flow state feeling. You know what I mean? He's feeling even more dialed in. He's going to be even more difficult to play against now.
For sure, and I think this was really a moment
I mean, you
where
texted
I
me
felt like I
and you
was
said,
in the
I'm dialed, like
yeah,
verbatim. And I'm
yeah.
like, and then I said, you're going to win this.
So close too, so close. But yeah, I think making big folds in these spots, there are too many times, especially in live tournaments, where we find ourselves in a spot where it's like our spidey senses are just going off, but maybe, especially if you're a studied player, you're like, no, y- you've almost trained yourself to ignore that because you want to play correctly. And there's something to that, but also this is something where there's certain players that just like seem to do well in these live tournaments, and you almost can't explain why. And I think this was a moment for me where I was like, I can't even tell you specifically what it was about the 3 bet that made me know it was
I can tell you
strong.
what it is. It's these micro, um, I don't know, for lack of a better term, tells that
Yeah.
you've seen over and over, which gives you an intuitive feeling that something isn't right. And then the hardest part is acting on that feeling, having that,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? So um you see people, over thousands and thousands of hours of playing poker, you see people make these motions strong, weak, all these different things. And even while you may not in the moment be like burying them in your memory bank. Um, as you continue to come across them, I'm a firm believer that you will, um, not subliminally. What's the word I'm looking for? But like, uh, my brain's not working right now. But anyways, you just you notice these things without having to put much thought into them. What's the word I'm looking for? Jesus.
Just intuition.
No, anyways, doesn't matter. But
Yeah.
listeners, or anyone listening to this right now is probably screaming it out loud. So, anyways,
Yeah.
yeah, I just think that it comes with experience. That's what builds your gut and intuitive feelings is experience.
Yeah, and there's actually so when we were at the same table day 1, there's actually a spot like this where I did not listen to my intuition, and I was kind of pissed at myself for it.
Explain.
There's a spot where I had already spun it up to, like, 80 80K or so. Big blind was 800. Player opened to 2K in the low jack, hijack flatted, and I had 2 nines, and I was just gonna flat the raise, but with the flatter in between, I decided to squeeze it to 7K. And I'm like, okay, my plan is to call a jam. Like my plan was to call a jam here. But then as the initial raiser kind of so he started with 28K, so 35 bigs. He took a 5K chip as if he was like he was trying to make it look like he was gonna call, and then he just went all in.
Oh, do you think he
And
was torn between trying to trap and then just not wanting to, and then just trying to just
no, I actually think he's probably pretty practiced in this. Like he's a solid player overall,
okay?
maybe
So
a
it's just
little.
like a reverse tell. You're saying?
Yeah, I think he's a little on the snug side, and that's why, he jammed, I called, and we ran nines into kings and doubled him up.
Okay.
So we still had about 50K in chips. It wasn't obviously wasn't the end of the world. I made a run on the one bullet, but it was one where I'm like, I kinda knew it when I was calling it off that, like, not only am I just hoping for ace king, but I actually felt like he tried to give off a bit of a false tell.
And the truth is like as much as you want to just play perfect poker and as good as you did play, you're not going to always land on the right answer every time.
Yeah, I think it's a little easier early on when you have a bunch of big blinds to, like, not be quite as dialed in on those little things too.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. It's funny the difference I feel when I'm playing 20 to 30 bigs deep in a day 2 compared to 80 plus bigs somewhere in day 1. Like my mental state is what I'm talking about here. My just how dialed I am, how undistracted I am.
Yep.
Undistracted? How not distracted I am. Anyways,
Yeah. Yeah, so there were a lot of really interesting hands. Um, I think that the specific hands we can talk about more next time. Plus there are a bunch more, like, so I guess you might even see them more as mental things, but just more details that we can get into.
okay, I like it.
A lot of things that I thought of, things that I've noticed in myself when I'm not in the right headspace, or things I've noticed in other players too, right?
I mean, we could potentially make this a little series. I like it because there's just so many gems in this
Yeah.
conversation.
No, I think that was our plan, or
Makes
that's what I
sense.
had
Yeah. Okay,
suggested to make it a series. Yeah.
for
So
sure. So let's do a little summary of what we talked about in this episode.
yeah.
We started off with talking about running up a big stack and then your mental state. Do you want to go ahead and summarize that for me?
Yeah. So, like, reasons you might not be making deep runs is one, you are subconsciously sort of optimizing for min cash, meaning even if you do build up a big stack, somewhat of a big stack, you kind of get to this point where you realize you could almost certainly lock in a cash if you try. And so you're basically playing to not bust. Like, yes, your secondary goal is to accumulate, but it's like most of your strategy revolves around not putting chips in unless it's like very clear that you need to.
Yep.
which is fine if you're, like, on the stone bubble, but, this tends there's a certain player type where I think this starts to happen way too early on.
I like that. So that's kind of the takeaway is like, don't start too early because you're going to end up dwindling.
Yeah, and give yourself a shot at being the person who can take advantage of others on the bubble.
Yeah.
That's where a lot of chips can come from too. And then two, on the flip side, maybe you're just too spewy where, you maybe you're not even like that spewy of a player. And sometimes they are, but I'm thinking of one time I heard this guy at a table say, like, my goal is every break, I want to be double the average chip stack. And like the first two breaks he had been, and I was like, dude, like Phil Ivey could come and play this tournament and that's not his
You're
goal,
going to end up torching your stack way too frequently to have that if you
Yeah.
have that
He
mindset.
busted before the next break.
Yeah.
Like he didn't,
Yeah.
And
Kind of just need to play with the flow of the card distribution, the table. Like you can't just make um these expectations because you're going to let yourself down. I think you just got to find the flow of the game and then try to optimize against with that.
yeah. And I don't even know if we talked about this, but I think this plays off of that where let's say you have that mindset, you lose a big one and you're well below chip average. A lot of times people will panic, try and quote unquote make something happen because
Yeah.
they need to get back, whether it's they're below starting stack, even though they still have 50 bigs, or it's they spun it up to 150K and now they're back down to 70. And maybe they still have, you know, 35 big blinds, but they're just in this mindset where no, I need to, I'm behind now and I need to catch up. And so I think there are all these like different mindset traps where you can really, if you're focusing on anything aside from just playing in a very plus chip EV way, knowing what that looks like, you're just going to find yourself torching in some manner, whether it's torching chips or just torching your EV by clinging to your chips too much.
I think,
So,
and another good thing to summarize too is making big folds when you need to, not just because the bubble's near, or listening to your gut, having that conviction, a conviction play. That's what I was trying to think of earlier. But
yeah.
um, yeah, and don't justify it by you have to justify it with the right things. You making big folds is just as important as getting value, all the way to thin value. And that's something that we need to summarize as well is don't be afraid of denying equity. Focus more on extracting value.
That's a good way to put it. Because yeah, we're talking about, betting 2x on the flop with an overpair,
Yeah.
putting yourself in a spot where you're folding out the
On such
worst
a
of one
dry
pairs.
board specifically, like, you can size up on
Yeah.
these wetter boards where, you can get more value because, they're gonna have bigger draws. But on 8-3 deuce or whatever it was,
Mhm.
yeah, with kings, like you're not gonna end up with a stack at any point in the tournament if you do things like that. You're gonna have
Yeah.
to wait for coolers that go in your favor, essentially.
Yeah. And actually to go back to that jacks fold I talked about, that was with 4 tables left, so we were already in the money, but we weren't close to the final table. So I think that actually generally, I think that's a fine time. Like, it would be a time in the tournament where it would be easy to say, like, you know, of I'm gonna go with jacks for 25 bigs because there's no pay jumps coming up, like, this is where we try and
I
accumulate,
might
but
have done it, right? I might have done
yeah.
it for sure.
On a different day, I might have done it for
But
sure.
you had a conviction. There's
Yeah.
something in your gut, in your intuition, saw something that you've probably seen many times over the past that gave you this feeling that something wasn't right, and you listened to that. But I think you got to be very careful with that at the same time because if you're listening to the wrong part of it and it's not your gut, and you're just going to start making mistakes. You know what I mean?
Alright, so that is that kinda everything we talked about? Oh, and then the last thing is just not knowing the basics. I mean,
Pre-flop, yeah, working on pre-flop
yeah, pre-flop
ranges.
ranges, bet sizes, like, I don't know the appropriate bet size for every flop and every turn, every situation, but, like, I think so many players spend all this time playing and probably, like, consume some poker content, including our podcast, right? But
Mhm.
don't sit down and just look at some charts and have a basic idea of what good play will look like.
Mhm.
And especially if you're not gonna play online and stuff, you don't need to be super dialed into this stuff, but you should have an idea of, like, yeah, opening queen 3 suited under the gun, that is probably really bad. Like,
Yeah.
that's so far off that that's not just a little tweak you're making, you're
Yeah.
probably just torching by doing that.
Well, it's funny, I remember, like, when I was pretty green at poker, being new, like, I would see people just be relentlessly aggressive, and I thought that's what I had to do. I just had to start opening it more and more in positions, but no, it's just like, have a foundation
Mhm.
and follow and stick with it. I think that's a good way to go about it. So, should we go ahead and wrap this up with some plugs?
Yeah, let's do it, and next time there's plenty of things on the list here we didn't get to, and so we'll talk more about how to make deep runs in tournaments, but
Yeah, I could see this being a few episodes for sure, but I think let's go ahead and start off with our meetup game. If you guys want to play some online pokers with Mr. Wesley Cannon and myself, go ahead and sign up for Clubs Poker using the link in the show notes. I said that instead of description this time, just to switch it up a little for you, Wesley. Yeah, make sure to sign up. If you use our code, if you use not our code, but our sign up link that you can find in the notes, that helps support the podcast. So we'd really appreciate that. And if you already signed up, we will be having our next meetup game next Tuesday,
it'll be the 28th,
the
right?
20th. Yes,
28th.
that sounds good. So make sure to join us at 7:30 p.m. Central Time for the 55 sweeps coin buy-in on Clubs Poker. I didn't splash hard last time. It was kind of nice,
Yeah,
but
I actually did because I was playing live.
yeah, you were
Oh,
playing
we
live.
both were.
You were just
Yeah,
like, I remember I floated you with King Queen of Diamonds on an ace high board, and then I turned to King, and then you just gave up, and I was pissed. Do you remember what you
yeah.
had that hand?
I had, like, 4th pa or I flopped a pair, so I don't
You
know.
opened like eight bigs under the gun, by the way.
I did, yeah, I had some crazy hands there. That's where I'm gonna get out of line. I remember I squeezed jack deuce suited from big blind against button small blind, and then button clicked. I'm like, "Well, good price." I call, flop a flush draw, just donk jam it, and we get there versus
If
aces,
there's a
so
safe place to punt away, it's the meetup game. That's our
it
sa
is.
that's like that's our tilt room. You know what I mean? Like instead of having a room full of glass objects where we have a bat and we can just shatter them, we just go to the meetup game and blast off. And
Yeah,
it feels good. It really does. So,
it
um,
kinda does.
you guys are looking to just have a good time, join the meetup game. If you guys are looking to make money, join the meetup game.
That too.
So yeah, check that out. We started removing the code, the password to join it, so you can just hop in there. It's
Anyone can, yeah.
every other Tuesday, 7:30 p.m. So the 28th, I believe Wes said, 7:30 p.m. Hop in there. And then on top of that, make sure to check out our merch with it's the Suited Kings merch with Tilted Compass. It's a little collaboration we did. You see these hoodies out in the wild quite frequently now, and I love that. It's super cool to see you guys out there rocking that stuff. So make sure to check that out. Again, link in the show notes. They're extremely comfortable, extremely warm, especially as winter's approaching. If you want to get some new hoodies for winter, make sure to check out Tilted Compass, whether it's the Suited Kings collab or not. Their gear is just super comfortable, super warm, high quality. So check that out.
Yeah,
Um,
very good stuff.
our Patreon page, if you guys enjoy the way that Wes and I teach and want to improve your game for a very short or very low price, rather, we have two tiers. We got the $5 podcast supporter tier where you don't get much with it other than just to show your support for the podcast. We do this for free, and we appreciate any extra that you can give to help us. And then we have our $15 a month subscription where Wes and I put out content, usually study based videos where we break down hands and stuff like that. On a weekly basis. So make sure to check that out. And we're actually going to start including full episodes into that specifically for Patreon members. So stay tuned for those. Going to be specifically geared to you guys. So, and then also our Discord. We're well over 300 members now, and we want you to continue. Hop in there, join the community. It's a great place to learn. It's a great place to meet people with similar interests as you, and it's a great place to just keep up on all things poker and Suited Kings. Wesley, am I missing anything?
No, I think that's it. I guess eventually I will restart streaming my bankroll challenge. Follow me at the Poker Cannon on Twitch for that.
Yep. We've been
Just
playing a
was
lot
gonna
of live
say
lately.
in reference to our Patreon, it's been a bit since we dropped videos. We will have some more. Any subscribers, you're able to get access to all of our past videos too. So there's definitely value in
Yeah, I mean,
that.
again, if you sign up for the $15 a month, we have probably 30 to 40 videos in there right now, something like that.
Yeah,
Somewhere in that
you
range.
can hop in there. You could potentially just pay 1 month, watch all the videos, and then stop if you
Yeah.
were thinking strategically.
But then you won't get access to all the future videos unless you
Yeah.
already subscribe. So,
I mean, if they were really clever, they'd do it like once every 6 months and then just
well, let's just be real here. You guys, not only do you get to learn, but you support us and the effort we put into
exactly,
teaching you
yeah.
guys. So it's all appreciated. Do
And
whatever's
we
right
yeah,
for you guys.
we appreciate all you guys for sure.
Absolutely. And with that, we have the $365 Running Aces
Just
Hollow Scream tournament.
360,
Just 360.
360, yeah.
Okay. The $360 Hollow Scream tournament at Running Aces in Minnesota here this weekend. Can't wait to get into the mix for that. I love Running Aces. I love playing their tournaments there. These buy-ins are nice and small, so we're gonna go up in there tonight, blast. Um, Hopefully, I do better than the Fall Poker Classic. And then next week, or next weekend, I don't even know if you're going west, but we have Riverside MSPT. One of my favorite stops, honestly.
Are you going?
I am gonna go. Yeah, I'm gonna stay. I got gonna stay with Ganya, and we're gonna play some golf on Saturday morning because Riverside has personally my favorite golf course I've ever played.
Yeah. It does have a really nice one.
Yeah,
I've just, like, walked through it,
yeah.
it's just, like it's beautiful.
Just know if I
I
see you walking the path, I will be just blasting golf balls at your head.
Yeah. I believe it, I believe it. It'll be like the emojis on clubs, except just actual golf balls
Instead of
coming from my
shitting
face.
fire bombs, it's gonna be golf balls straight at the
Yeah.
dome. Yeah,
I will probably just go on Saturday. I have
yeah.
plans on Friday that I yeah, so my plan is just to drive down Saturday morning and get there for day 1C and hopefully just have things go smooth, but
Okay. All
it's a
right.
good it's a good bankroll management thing if it doesn't go well too,
I That's
but
one of my favorite things about Reggie in the last days is I can't just get burned. Well,
you
it
can.
limits my burn.
Yeah.
But anyways, guys, girls, thank you for taking the time to listen to today's episode. Hope this, really lights a fire under your ass as you approach this weekend's tournaments. I hope you make some deep runs. Wes, you as well. Hopefully, see you at Running Aces. Probably tonight, I'll see you there.
Yep.
And we'll see you guys next week with another episode.